Hello there friends, welcome back to another episode of Generation Tech. A lot of you guys out there have been asking me, hey Alan, why aren't there any aliens inside of this prison camp in Andor? And to be honest, I've been trying to avoid this question or doing this video because it's about alien slave labor. And full disclosure, I've been labeled recently as a human supremacist and an anti-alien fascist by the Outer Rim Poverty Law Center. Especially after I released this very emotional and personal reaction video about how it was beautiful that the Imperials and local tribal people were able to enjoy the Eye of Aldani together, peacefully, as, you know, human beings, and how it didn't really matter which faction they belonged to because of their shared humanity. I wasn't thinking about the enslaved baby Wookiees being rounded up for backbreaking work in the mines of Kessel. I know that exists, but, you know, my Humanity First movement has always been more about loving my fellow humans more than, you know, destroying Xeno scum. Although I still hold strong to my belief that certain more dangerous alien species should be wiped out in what I like to call preemptively retaliatory acts that are completely justified. Anyway, so what's going on with the lack of aliens in this prison? First, we're going to take a look at some in-universe lore reasons, and then we'll talk about some of the more production-based reasons why they would do this. So the first and most obvious reason why there are only humans in the Imperial prison is what we talked about in our last few Narkina 5 breakdowns. And that's this facility is made for efficiency and cost saving, and the best way to get that is by scaling up the size of your operation and also standardizing everything, which of course makes scaling up things much easier. Now, there are endless amounts of species in the galaxy to discover, meet, and eventually imprison and turn into slave labor. And this death trap of a prison on Narkina 5 is designed specifically to keep humans comfortable and healthy enough so that they can be worked to death. Very slowly though, very, very slowly. It's horrific. And so we're talking about precise climate control built specifically for the human body, which is at its most comfortable at around 70 degrees, which is probably an unbearably hot temperature for a Tals or a Gygoran. Mon Calamarans might like the 70-degree weather, but they might also want close to 100% air humidity in the room, which would be intolerable for most non-aquatic species. And also for people who don't like the smell of fish. There, I said it. I said it. The Gungans won't mind the humidity, but Gungans, given their turbulent history with the Naboo settlers on their planet, might not get along with humans, which could create a lot of tension and further security issues. Which just makes things harder. So you see what I'm getting at? It's a lot better to make a prison that is built for one species. They have similar clothing, similar diet, similar needs. There's no unseen consequences of mixing a variety of different aliens together. Imagine putting the Mentos and Coke of aliens, the Trandoshans and Wookiees, inside the same prison. The amount of hair, blood, and ripped off body parts you would have to clean up after every shift would just be enormously costly and also disgusting. You have to remember also the Empire's MO here is to erase the individuality of every being and basically turn them into statistics and numbers. Another cog in the machine, another stormtrooper, another prison laborer. I mean, for all we know, those other large prison complexes we see in the water could be holding different species. Although because there are more humans than any other alien race in Star Wars, I think it's probably not the case. Those are probably all human prisons. And it's also because I believe that non-humans are going to be put in much worse conditions. Yeah. I know, guys, that Narkina 5 seems horrendous and terrifying, and it is, but everything in life is relative. And there's going to be a lot worse situations out there. But before we begin, a quick word from our sponsor for today's video, ownersaber.com. Oh god, I love the smell of burning Kyber in the morning. I also love the Black Friday deals that they'll have for you guys until November 30th. If you guys buy 2 of any of their lightsabers, you'll get $100 off automatically at checkout. And if you buy 3 of their lightsabers, you'll get $150 off of your entire purchase. And for those of you who just want one lightsaber, well, you can still use our promo code PORG, that's P-O-R-G, all capitalized, for 20% off at checkout. Ownersaber has a great range of dueling sabers that are great for sparring and heavy use, along with more premium and unique saber hilts and designs that are packed with all sorts of functions and beautiful to look at. Now, I personally enjoy rocking this first on. This is a replica of Obi-Wan Kenobi's first lightsaber. If you guys want more information about how you can get in on this deal, well, check out the description down below. And as usual, thank you for your patience. On to the rest of the video. So during the Imperial period, you did have pro-Empire aliens like Freck here.
We love the Empire.
Nice to meet like-minded folk.
Nothing wrong with a little order, right?
But generally for most aliens, things got a lot worse for them with the rise of the Empire. Now, the Galactic Constitution, created by the Old Republic, originally guaranteed rights for all sentient beings, and that meant protection against slavery. The Empire was marketed as just a continuation of all the good things the Republic had and none of the bad stuff they had. But at its core, this was actually a very human-centric government and political organization. And in Legends lore, it was even vehemently anti-alien. Compnor, or the Emperor's own personal political movement, was in charge of developing pro-Imperial propaganda and securing the loyalty of the human-dominated core regions of the galaxy, which is where most of the wealth and also production capabilities of the Republic were placed. Human High Culture was one of these programs developed by Compnor, and it was designed to create pride amongst humans and at the same time make anything that wasn't humanoid, whether they're aliens or droids, seem lesser. The droids especially were problematic because of their role in traumatizing the galaxy during the Clone Wars. Another reason why we don't see many large automated manufacturing plants in the Empire or in this prison on Narkina 5. But of course, with most dictators and authoritarians, all of their policy is designed for one thing, and that is serving their own needs. Palpatine famously surrounded himself with aliens. His grand advisor, the man who ran the day-to-day operations of the Empire, was Masamida, a Chagrian. His close advisor, Sly Moore, was an Umbaran. And one of his favorite military commanders was the Chiss Mithranuedo. I mean, the real reason why he pushed this human supremacy thing was, as we talked about in our previous video, to make like an insider group that the Imperials could be really proud of. And if, being a part of a government organization wasn't enough, if you made it also about your species, it made them even prouder. This is your classic us versus them type of policy. At the same time, by making aliens look degenerate, Emperor Palpatine can target entire worlds, blockade them, and turn all of the living beings on those planets into slave labor. Two great examples of this would be the Twi'leks on Ryloth and the Wookiees on Kashyyyk. If Palpatine hadn't built this anti-alien kind of message, it would have been a lot harder to carry out these very brutal occupations of these planets. You still had a lot of normal and well-meaning people in the galaxy. There's also an added bonus to turning these two worlds into slave production centers. There were significant resistance movements brewing on the surface of these planets. With the destruction of the media and opposition in the Senate, the Empire basically had free reign to do whatever they wanted with these prisoners. If you think Narkina 5 prison is bad, well, wait till you find out about the behavioral modification chips they put inside of the Wookiees' brains. Yeah, these things were very similar to what the clones had in their heads that caused Order 66. These chips could cause immense amount of pain to the Wookiees when they disobeyed, and they could even kill them if they were set on their maximum threshold. And while Wookiees were proud and unafraid of dying, the Empire could just target their children and loved ones. It's some sadistic stuff. Far more cruel than just the simple explosive collars that other prisons like the one on Kessel used. The Wookiees would be enslaved on their home planet to basically do a lot of agricultural work so that they can produce products that the Empire could sell on the larger galactic market. Many of them were also sent to work on the secretive Death Star project, which at its height had millions of sentient beings working on it. For instance, the Geonosians, which were a hive mind species, were mainly tasked with creating the superstructure of the entire base. Shortly after they finished the project, Tarkin would proceed to use chemical weapons to wipe out their entire species. The genocide of the Geonosians was designed to keep this entire project a secret. And so sadly, what we see on Narkina 5 actually represents a top-notch Imperial effort to make what they saw was a comfortable prison. Not necessarily because they cared about the rights of the prisoners, but because in a messed up way they wanted to keep these human workers alive so that they could continue producing, and also because they were humans. The prisoners here are well fed, they even have some access to some medical care. This is not something you would see in an alien prison facility, which was just a straight up death camp and not a labor prison. Yeah, so guys, there are definitely different levels of evil, and the Empire kind of believed their own propaganda. They believed that their human slave labor was much more capable of building things than, let's say, non-human races like the Wookiees and other species. This is probably why Narkina 5 is actually an elite prison. That's why it looks so nice. If you take a look at the labor prisons where there is mixed human and alien population, well, they just don't look so white and clean. I really think the Narkina 5 prison is special, especially judging by how nice and collaborative everyone in this prison is. No, seriously guys, aside from Kino Loy, there's almost zero violence in this prison. Everyone is very collaborative and there's no scheming or backstabbing. none of these people seem like hardened felons, if you ask me, or murderers. Jyn Erso's prison, on the other hand, looked like it was full of some very violent and dangerous people. So that's our in-lore explanation why there aren't any aliens in the Narkina-fied prison. Now let's talk about the production reason. So Star Wars has a specific look that's very unique in sci-fi fantasy, and a lot of it is focused on nostalgia. Some of it is good, some of it is not so good. What's good? Well, like the combination of practical effects and CGI. Many of the ships we see in the new Star Wars films are made out of real-life props still, like the original film, and then they're mixed together in post-production with other digital assets. The aliens, on the other hand, have always been hit or miss, and they're a mixture of, makeup on people, prosthetics on people, puppets, animatrons. There's all sorts of crazy things going on. And in every great cantina scene in Star Wars, you're bound to see that mixture of the awesome and the not so awesome. Tony Gilroy has repeatedly said that Andor is about the average individual and how the Galactic Empire affects their life. And this is probably why he wants to have characters that are more relatable, aka human beings, and he's probably uncomfortable with having some of these alien characters on screen because they can be a huge distraction. This is probably why most of the aliens that he does use are background characters. Now, I think it's a huge missed opportunity to not have alien characters in Star Wars because that's one of its strengths, and with CGI and makeup as it is nowadays, you can get some really awesome looking characters that aren't distracting at all. Now, this is Tony Gilroy's first attempt at doing Star Wars, so he might be uncomfortable with working with these type of elements, so maybe give him some time, and maybe in the second season we'll see something like this appear. Let me know in the comment section below what you guys think, and as usual, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification button down below so you don't miss out on the rest of our awesome content. As usual, my name is Alan, reminding you that my allegiance is to the Republic, the democracy,